Okay, David. So I figure we'll start off kind of, general, and then we'll get into Diablo Blizzard stuff. So at first, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Why did you become an author, and what books have you previously written?
I became an author because a teacher hit me over the head and told me to do it. That's a true story. Uh, when I was in college, I majored in computer science. Of course, wanted to create video games, like a lot of people want to do. But due to a number of experiences, I got kind of burned out on the programming path. And I was taking like 18, 19 credit hours a semester, and I would add on a writing course or two just to relax.
Huh.
And I threw more energy into those. And I remember I wrote a paper that I was pretty proud of for a young adult literature course. The teacher passed them all around, and she said, "I'm going to pass one back last because I would like that author to read it." And that ended up being me, and the class liked it. And I was leaving, feeling pretty good about myself. And she comes bustling after me, holding this huge paper, or this huge folder full of papers. And she said, "David, what's your major right now?" And I said, "Computer science." And she bopped me on the head with it. And she said, "Quit fooling around with computers. You're a writer. You need to write." And that was kind of like a light bulb moment for me. I'd never really looked at writing as a possible career choice, just something I kind of did in my spare time. So I've been pursuing it hot and heavy ever since. I'm a writer by trade. I do a lot of freelance writing. Worked in the games industry for a number of years on both sides. I did the journalism beat. I also wrote some game scripts for a few social games, and actually ended up rewriting Hellgate London for a developer that picked it up after Flagship folded.
Really?
Yeah, I did, and let's see. On the fiction side, in addition to the video game stuff, I've published 4 short stories. I'm shopping around some novels, and I published a nonfiction book on renewable energy a few years ago. So I've been busy. It's
Wow.
good.
Okay. Lots,
Yeah.
lots of different stuff here. And
Yes.
right off the bat, being a computer programmer isn't really somebody you'd expect to become an author, just because. I mean, I myself have also done computer science as a major, and I kind of switched into information technology because as a computer programmer, you don't really get that whole people person kind of attitude, you know.
No.
So yeah, it's kind of
No.
that's weird. It's not that it's weird, but it's different.
It kind of works out for me. It was a very smooth transition because I liked to hole up in my room and bask in the glow of the monitor as I wrote code, and now I like to hole up in my office and bask in the glow of my monitor as I'm writing fiction, nonfiction. So
All
it works
right.
out.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Now, what exactly brought you to Blizzard in the first place?
When I was in middle school, I had friends who would come to lunch every day talking about their Warcraft 2 modem games from the night before, and I don't know why, but I never really played it. And then a few years after that, I actually had an uncle who worked at Blizzard North. He did some contracting for them, then he started there full time later on. And he was like, "Hey, the guys are working on this game called Diablo. You want into the beta?" And I'm like, "Yeah, yeah, let's check it out." I had a 4666 megahertz computer at the time, so I booted this thing up, and interestingly, I still have the disc. It was the BattleNet beta, not necessarily the Diablo
Right.
beta.
Yeah.
Yeah, and man, the characters walked even slower than they already did. But I was hooked on that thing. I would play it for hours. I still have this disc somewhere, although it doesn't work anymore because it was written for Windows 95 code. But
Yeah.
I have a single player demo that was a little bit longer. I think it was like the first 4 or 5 levels, and I played that thing over and over and over. And so I think it was just I was a Blizzard North fan and a Diablo fan before I ever became a Blizzard fan and a fan of the Warcraft and Starcraft games. I think it was Diablo's the ambiance. I loved that gothic horror theme and how it just permeated everything: the music, the art, the gameplay, and I really like just the accessibility. I like fantasy settings and role-playing games, but a lot of them just took too long to get going. But Diablo, I mean, within minutes, you were not only installed, but you were in the game, trolling dungeons and so forth. So, yeah, it was Diablo that first hooked me on Blizzard games.
Interesting. And yeah, definitely. I completely agree with you. Just that feeling of being immersed. It's crazy.
Yeah, totally.
Now, I get, we get you're a Blizzard fan and that you're also an author, but why exactly do you want to write about Blizzard and how it relates to Diablo? I know some people enjoy doing things and they kind of want to keep stuff, between their work and their hobby separate. Why do you want to merge the two?
I think because I think there are a number of ways to answer that. I know that I have always been interested. You know, I think you take any hobby, and hobbyists want to know more, not only about the subject matter itself, but how it was created. You know, you have movie buffs who just go over every making of documentary they can get because they want to know how their favorite films were made. And by the time I was done playing Diablo, I remember one day I played it for so long that when I would close my eyes, I would see the map grid over my eyelids. And I knew I wanted to know more about it. And when I started writing, I wanted to get a job as a paid writer. Like, that was the goal. And I figured, well, what can I write about? What do I know? And that obviously was video games. And I came to really like, more than any other type of article, I loved writing retrospectives. I wrote a number for some magazines, Good Old Games. And so, you know, it was kind of another light bulb moment, another kind of duh moment where I was like, you know, I don't see the story of Blizzard North out there. I know that it's available in bits and pieces, but no one's ever told the whole story, especially what it's like to work in a company from that time period. To me, the 90s are still the most interesting era of gaming because, you know, the game industry had ramped back up from its crash and people were really settling into games as a hobby. And not so much a career. It was still that you work in games, does that pay money, you know, from your mom? But it was just an interesting time. And so I thought, you know, no one's told this story. Well, I'll tell it. Why not? And so I just started tracking people down. I remember I got a hold of Dave Brevik's phone number, and I remember pacing for like a good hour before I called him. Like, I can't believe I'm just about to call this guy up and ask him if he'd mind talking to me for this book. And I called and said, it was kind of in a rush, like, hey, Dave Brevik, my name is Dave too. Huh, isn't that cool? I'd like to write a book about Diablo. Will you talk to me? And he just kind of paused and he goes, yeah, okay. So it kind of, that was actually a little bit later. Eric Sexton and I became friends through an assignment I worked on for 3D stereoscopic graphics, and he kind of helped me get a hold of people. And, you know, it was just a story that hadn't been told. And, forgive me, I'm a little verbose and kind of rambling, but it was a story that hadn't been told, and I wanted to tell it.
I think that's great, and it kind of seems like you've somehow intermingled with all these people already, and it kind of just happened to work out. I mean, that's great.
Yeah, it was a really cool coincidence when I moved to the Bay Area. I after a job that I moved out there for, and subsequently lost in about 3 months. I started doing some freelance writing, and one of my first assignments was to write an article on stereoscopic graphics that Xbox Magazine optioned. And my uncle, the same guy who had worked for at Blizzard North, had started a game company, and Eric Sexton, Kelly Johnson, and Michio Akamura were working for him. And my uncle put me in touch with Eric and Kelly, and Eric and I especially hit it off. We went out to lunch for the interview, and we just started hanging out and playing games. And I remember one time I was driving home, and I was like, man, this is so cool. I'm actually friends with one of the guys who made my favorite computer games. And, you know, another light bulb moment and a very long string of them. I thought, well, man, maybe I could, you know, see if he would be willing to round up some of his old colleagues and work with me on a book. And so that's kind of how it started from there. Eric and Kelly talked to me, Michio talked to me, and they would kind of, you know, filter email addresses through to me, and it just kind of snowballed from there until I eventually I just started working my way through the manuals too. You know, just looking people up on Facebook and LinkedIn and getting hold of them, and most people have signed on, so it's been pretty cool.
Well, okay. And I mean, like you said before, it's kind of out there, just more in bits and pieces, and there really isn't any one central place to go. And I know you just said that you kind of look through the manuals and Facebook and try to hit people up, but I mean, what kind of research really does go into this, and about how long did it take you to even start?
It's taken a long time, again, for a number of reasons. I mean, I think the first and foremost would be being a writer by trade. It's how I earn my paycheck. I can't just devote days and days to, like, this project so far has not brought in a dime. It's been a labor of love. So I've occasionally had to put research and interviews and writing aside to work on stuff to get the bills paid. That's the biggest factor. Otherwise, just the research. I'm very meticulous. As a fiction author, I can make up my characters, my worlds, my magics, my sciences And I have to stick to those rules, but I can still make them up. I can play with them. In this book, I've been very meticulous in talking to people for hours and hours and hours to make sure I can get as much detail as possible, to learn as much as possible, because these aren't my characters. These are real people who lived this amazing story, and I want to make sure to do it justice. So to that end, I hit the internet hard. I dug up old interviews, reviews, press releases, all sorts of announcements. I've conducted, like I said, hours and hours worth of in-person interviews, phone interviews, Skype interviews, email interviews if people wanted to go that route, with as many Blizzard North and ex-Blizzard Entertainment people as I can pester to the, short of them filing a restraining order against me, to get them to jump in. And actually, I mean, most people have responded with great enthusiasm. They were also, I've had more than one person say, I can't believe anyone hasn't done this before. So it's been really fun. Most everyone has been very enthusiastic to share their story.
What steps are you taking into account to ensure that, I mean, the book isn't really one-sided in the sense that it's kind of, Blizzard's North dispersing from Blizzard as a whole, and then, I don't know, it seems to me like there are die-hard Blizzard North fans that really wish that Blizzard North was still around, and they're not really too fond of Blizzard, as a mass entity in modern days. So, I mean, how are you dealing with that, if you understand what I'm getting at? Sorry.
No, I totally do. I think that one thing that was very important in this story, you can't, Blizzard's 3 core IPs, Diablo, StarCraft, and Warcraft, you can't really tell a story about one of them without getting into the others to some degree, which is what led me to talk to a number of individuals who used to work at Blizzard, especially the ones who had a lot of interaction with Blizzard North and, made contributions to Diablo. I wanted to make sure that everyone could see both sides of the story. And really, I mean, this is a story of Blizzard North. This is a story of the making of Diablo. But it is also a story about 2 studios who started on a very similar path and then diverged at a certain point. And we can see, how Blizzard North changed and how Blizzard Entertainment changed. And, kind of get through uncovering that, we can see how that affected the development of Diablo and Blizzard North's progress. And, I'm one of those people. I mean, I like Blizzard. To be honest, I haven't really been a big fan of their games probably since Diablo 2. I don't care for MMOs, so I'm not really a WoW guy. Warcraft 3's Heroes didn't really do much to me, and StarCraft 2 or 1.5, however you want to think of it, it just wasn't for me. So just most of my attention has remained on Diablo, and so that will be the focal point of the book. But at the same time, there'll be plenty of exploration of Blizzard Entertainment as a whole, and each of its IPs, because each of those are puzzle pieces in the overall big picture, I think.
That's great to hear. I mean, I'm a Blizzard fan in general, but I mean, I have to say Diablo is my favorite universe. So I mean, just being able to learn about Blizzard and their interaction between Blizzard North, that's huge, especially again because this is unique. It's never been done before.
Totally.
So I mean,
Blizzard is one of those companies that they're very tight-lipped, and you can understand why. I mean, you get so popular to a point that everyone's going to want to write about you. Everyone's going to have want to say something about you, and so I think that this book will. I have to say it was also a goal of mine. That while again I can't stress enough that Blizzard North and Diablo are the focal point, I also felt the other IPs and Blizzard Entertainment itself was worth exploring, simply because there are so many Blizzard fans out there, and who will have, I know a lot of people are going to be playing the Diablo game for the first time next year when Diablo 3 hits. So I think that, coming from other Blizzard games like StarCraft and WoW, they'll find this story probably as appealing as anyone like you and I, like you and me, who are Diablo fans.
Yeah, definitely. And I gotta ask, I mean, what has it been like interviewing and talking to all these people who have been so influential on Diablo's history as a whole?
I think I embarrassed Dave Craddock once because I confessed to him that he was kind of one of my heroes. He didn't really quite know how to respond to that. I mean, it's kind of surreal, like being a gaming geek, as I proudly refer to myself, designers and the artists and the engineers and the musicians. I mean, I've talked to Matt freaking Ullman. That's really cool to me. That's, like a big sports fan meeting his favorite athlete. It's been really cool. I've been very honored to tell this story, and that's definitely something I'm taking. I'm treating it. I'm telling the story the way it needs to be told. I'm not glossing over anything. No one really wants me to. At the same time, I'm like, these guys are my heroes. I want to tell it with the respect that it deserves, and I'm taking every step to do that.
And that's great. I mean, it's kind of hard to take your fanboyism out of it. I'm not you specifically.
Yeah.
I just mean in general.
Yeah, it is. It totally is.
Yeah. So how do you think that the events between Blizzard and Blizzard North affected the development of Diablo 3, if at all? Because I mean, the timing between this is impeccable. Diablo 3, within the next, I want to say 6 months or so. So I mean, this is relatively great timing for you.
Yeah, that's the whole thing. I mean, a lot of people have asked me why I'm starting to promote this book so early, because I don't intend to release it until summer 2012. Hopefully, knock on wood, around a date that is very significant to Diablo's history. But I think you're right. I think that all the eyes are on the internet right now, the gaming world, for Diablo 3 news. So this just seems like the time to really start promoting the book. Because, if I didn't feel I was far enough along to promote it, I wouldn't. But, getting back to your original question, I think that the events between Blizzard and Blizzard North definitely had an effect on Diablo 3's development. I don't know if a lot of people realize this, but there were actually 2 versions of Blizzard North, or of Diablo 3 in development at Blizzard North. There was an MMO direction, and then there was the more traditional action RPG direction that the studio took after Dave Brevik and Max and Eric Schaefer, the founders, left 2003 with Bill Roper. And, the MMO version was thrown out, and the game was started from scratch. And there was just a lot of uncertainty around that time. I mean, the founders were gone. So the interaction between Blizzard North and Blizzard Entertainment changed. I mean, before they'd always had those 3 founders to kind of, guide the studio. And now they were gone. So how do you guide it from here? I mean, what's the line? How much say does Blizzard have on the game versus how much say does Blizzard North, the developer of the game, have on their IP? There was also a lot of other stuff going around that time. Flagship was forming. A lot of people wanted to kind of follow their old bosses and kind of relive the culture that they had facilitated at Blizzard North. And then, I also offer some insight into how Blizzard 3, Diablo 3 shaped up at Blizzard Entertainment after Blizzard North closed its doors in 2005. So I think people will see that, there were a lot of factors that influenced Diablo 3. I mean, you look at Duke Nukem Forever, and sure, it's gone through a lot of changes, but Diablo 3 has been rebooted a fair number of times as well. It looks like they're finally, they're definitely close to finally putting it out, but it's sure a storied history. And I'm going to get into all the nitty-gritty of that.
That's awesome. Oh, man. I'm excited now. Not that I wasn't excited before.
Yeah, see, I think that will be the case with a lot of people, and I can certainly understand why, because, after Diablo 2 Lord of Destruction was released in the summer of 2001, there was kind of Blizzard North kind of went quiet. You'd hear about job openings every now and then. But then the next major thing you heard from them was the 3 founders are leaving the company. Holy crap, what does this mean? And then things went quiet again. And the next thing you hear, the company closed. Holy crap. I mean, a lot of people just don't know what went on during those 4 years. And so I can very much see how that will be perhaps the most appealing part of the book to people.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I almost feel as if this is going to uncover a lot of the unknowns.
It definitely will. It definitely will.
Yeah, and in time, or as looking at, let's say, a timeline, where is your book going to follow? Yeah.
Go ahead.
Now, just from when to when is your book going to cover?
Yeah, sure. So as I've said, the main focus is definitely Blizzard North and Condor, the company that became Blizzard North. We start with the backgrounds of Dave Brevik and the Schaefer brothers, of course, being the founders, being the guys responsible for kind of the overall direction of Diablo and the culture that was so awesome and so responsible for how Diablo and Diablo 2 were developed. We start with them. And the book really picks up around, I would say its main years are 1993, when Condor was formed, through Blizzard North's closure in 2005, with a bit of an epilogue that kind of, gives a little bit of a glimpse into what went on after the Diablo 3 team moved to Irvine, California, down south from the Bay Area, and but I don't go into too much from there because that's a pretty large scope for the book already, and I think that probably Blizzard Entertainment's Diablo 3 would warrant a story in and of itself. Hint, hint, wink, wink. So
yeah,
we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah, okay. So I guess I shouldn't ask whether or not you're planning anything for Diablo 3.
As of right now, I'm still kind of oscillating back and forth between yes and no. I would certainly like to, but this book, I mean, I've been working on it. I started the interviews heavily in 2009, early or late 2008. Really?
It's
kind of blurring. Yeah. So it's been like a 3-year project because again, I'm trying to be as meticulous as possible, and I started a publishing company specifically for this book, and we have another book lined up after this one. I'll just tease you with that a little bit. I can't really talk about it, but with this project really getting heavily into production, and then the next project beginning its initial phases within the next couple of weeks, I can't really say what my plans are after that. I do have some tentative ones, but they're still pretty hazy.
Sure. And I mean, are you at all excited for Diablo 3? I mean, you said earlier you're a Blizzard North fan, and these Blizzard games haven't really, touched you in the same way Diablo 1 and 2 have. So, what do you think about Diablo 3 currently?
Yeah, I guess just to kind of go back to that, I still appreciate Blizzard's games. I mean, I was, in a line at midnight on StarCraft 2's launch day with most of the rest of the gaming world. I just think it was to me, there's pre-WoW Blizzard and post-WoW, and I think I just kind of enjoyed pre-WoW Blizzard's games more. I can't even exactly articulate why. I'd have to think about it, but there was just more of that classic game feel to them, to Diablo and Diablo 2 and StarCraft and Warcraft 1 and 2, which I went back and played. But I am excited for Diablo 3. Frankly, I don't see how any Diablo fan wouldn't be. I think there are a lot of questions that I want answered, though, that I think can only be answered by playing the game. I mean, first of all, you look at Diablo 2, and you have a game that has been on store shelves for 11 years and counting. That's pretty incredible to me. I mean, think about how many games and consoles and technologies Diablo 2 has watched come and go, and it's still there. It's crazy. And so I wonder, I know that Diablo 3 is going to sell well. There's no question about that. Every Blizzard game sells well. But will it have the longevity of Diablo 2? Will it have the legs? I mean, this is Blizzard Entertainment's Diablo. This is not Blizzard North's Diablo. What will the differences be? Will it be fun? Will it have that longevity? I am very much looking forward to answering those questions, because I know that at first, I mean, heck, I love Diablo 2, but I've played it for 11 years. I'm ready for something new, anything new with the Diablo name on it. But after that, after the newness wears off, how will it persist? How will it age? I think I'm looking forward to seeing how that plays out.
Definitely all the questions we're going to have to wait and see in time. I think that about wraps up this interview. Is there anything else that you wanted to express to the fans?
Just that, kind of like I said earlier, I mean, this book is a labor of love for me. I'm writing it and several others because I loved reading about the history of this industry and my favorite hobby and just how games are made. And I think that anyone who has even a passing interest in the most, two of the most influential studios to ever grace the industry with games, those being Blizzard and Blizzard North, to the hardcore Diablo fans, to the fans of their other IPs, I think that, this book will hold a lot of appeal. And it's a little ways off yet, but I hope you like it.
Thanks, David. I appreciate you taking the time to sit down and talk to me. I mean, I wish you all the luck. I guarantee that as long as you pull this off, there's going to be lots of success behind it. Guarantee it.
I appreciate that. And actually, I've been looking forward to talking to you. You were one of the first people to respond to the first blog post I, excitedly pounded on my keyboard, like 9 months ago or so. So I've been waiting to talk with you about this. It's been pretty fun.
Thanks, David. Appreciate it.
Yeah, take care.
All right. Bye-bye.